Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be talking about the World Finals for Conquest 2024, which is coming up very, very soon. They've just posted the army lists of all 16 players who are going to be going into it, and I just thought we'd have a little bit of fun running through the army lists and not going into too much detail, but I thought I'd share my fun little predictions about how well they'll do based on the lists. The most important thing that I've got to say, though, you know, for anybody sort of taking away information from this video, is that looking at somebody's army list is in no way an accurate prediction of how they really will do. If I say that somebody's likely to do well and they don't, it won't be that surprising. It's just very fun to have a look at it. Tournaments do something where they determine usually who is the best player or who was the luckiest player or who did the best based on a variety of factors, army lists being one of them. The game is not perfectly balanced. It's very much in need of a patch, but there is still a lot to be said about generalship and players' decisions and a lot of the stuff that goes on in the table. The game is not decided at the list building stage by any stretch of the imagination. So just to embarrass myself, I will do another one of these videos after the event, and we'll just see roughly where my predictions manage to land. I expect it to be very difficult to predict winners and generally how well factions do, and I believe very strongly that that has no bearing on game balance. That is determined by other things and analyzed in a very different way. Hope you guys can really appreciate that. But we're going to do a little bit of a dive into the lists, and I'll try and say how well I think each person will fare. Remember that, you know, we're not talking about how well they would do versus their local meta or their friends or somebody online on TTS. They're playing against another, you know, the other 15 people in that tournament, and it's all relative. We've got to index them. So if we pick somebody who is predicted to be last, that doesn't mean that they're a terrible player or they have a terrible list. It's just relative to everybody else, and I hope you can really understand that. Cool, so let's get into it. We have this post here. You guys can check it out yourselves at Parabellum's website. This is available to everybody and on the Discord as well. I'm not even going to bother linking to it. It's in the Discord. You can see it in the announcements. You can just download these lists for yourself. All right, so let us come over to the first one, and I love this list. This guy has gone all in on the Raptor Riders. They got buffed recently. They became cheaper, and look how many Raptors he's taken. He's got the Predator over here. This Predator is actually to join the Slingers. This is not a mounted Predator, but if you come down here, we have a mounted Predator. I think I read in the Discord that he's bringing the Brood of Omgora model to represent it because the proper mounted Predator, which looks amazing, by the way, isn't actually out as far as I know. But 3 units of Raptor Riders and an Apex Predator in the second group. And obviously over here we've got the Predator with the Slingers, and then there's the Raptor Riders separately. He's taking units of 4, and then the Matriarch Queen just joining the Blooded and the Apex. It doesn't look like the Matriarch Queen is on the Apex Predator, but she's given Famine to the Blooded. So this list is so cool. I hope this list does well. And I mean nothing badly by it when I say that this list is by far the weakest at the entire event. It's actually extremely limited in the sense that there are too many lights. Raptor Riders can't score from the objectives. So if I have to pick one of these lists to do most poorly, to come in last place, it would be this one. If it doesn't come last, again, won't be too surprised because, you know, it's about the player's ability at the end of the day. That will have a lot of influence. Luck plays a big factor as well. So if this list does very well, you know, it won't be astonishing, but if I could pick one of the other lists over this one, I would from a competitive standpoint. It is a very cool list, but I just can't see it doing anything. The other issue too is that you've got a lot of regiments which have exactly 4 things in it. I assume that, you know, the Mounted Predator is going to join one of the units of 4, but that leaves one regiment with just 4 stands in it, which is very vulnerable to the old kill 2 stands to break them and 1 more stand to shatter them, because it's half of 4 and then half of 2. So unfortunately, I don't particularly love this one from a competitive standpoint. It's a mounted Predator, it's a Predator Supremacy, by the way, so it's all about threat range. But for cool factor, brownie points, it's awesome. Moving on, we've got Brutish British from Sorcerer Kings here. This is Christopher. So just having a run through, it's looking like, yep, typical Sorcerer Kings, just lots of fire stuff. And I'm expecting to see Jadu, Kavak in there somewhere. Let's see if we can spot it. So Sorcerer over here, Court of Air with the Disciples, yep, and the goals. You definitely want that if you've got something to put the Sorcerer with fire. Yep, here she is here, Sorcerer of Fire. This one's bound to the elements, elemental projection. Yep, that should go with the flame casters, I'm assuming. Then the Maharaja, Shulat, Neon Shran. Where is the Jadu Kavak? Maybe not playing it. That's really interesting. Okay. So Sorcerer Kings is generally best played as a gunline. They very much need an update, and they do need other regiment choices. They're one of the weaker factions in the game at the moment, but you can be competitive with them if you just run almost a pure gunline and try to make the most of the Sorcerer's -1 defense spell and all of the shooting. I think the best way to play them is to have a couple of Sorcerers or a couple of Maharajas. Maharaja Warlord's obviously the best choice for Warlord. But you want to be able to get a lot of shooting done with your free action from the rituals, and you want a conflagration, and you really want to burn to cinders quite a lot with the Maharaja. But it is quite difficult to get through. Some armies are very resistant to shooting, and some scenarios aren't going to work out that well for them. They definitely require a lot of skill to play that style. And if you play any version of Sorcerer Kings that isn't really that kind of gunline, they struggle. So I'm not predicting this list to do brilliantly well. Coming over to Baba, we have, this is Alexander Nowak. Chieftain with the War, Mental the Devoted, Voice of Conquest, okay, and a group of 6 Blooded. So I think the idea here is to get the triple activation on the large unit of Blooded, and that allows you to get in there with a Chief and Shock Assault quite effectively, and with the Champion on the Blooded, that's a lot of attacks. And they're going to be going at Clash 2, Inspired, +1 for Shock, and that does quite a lot of damage. My criticism of this is that you are doing it as an alternative to Veterans. Veterans have Flurry automatically, so they're still very accurate. They still pump out a lot of attacks, but they are much tougher. Blooded and the Chieftain don't really get much in the way of resolve bonuses apart from their regiment size. So if they end up taking a bit of a hit, maybe from a couple of spells, go into a Dweg gunline, and then something attacks them, they can fail a lot of resolve checks. So I'm not very confident. I personally wouldn't be very confident with this style of list, but this person obviously knows what they're doing. On the other hand, Sign of Conquest with the Double Chosen, that is spot on. That's probably the best thing you can do with Wadroon at the moment, apart from Slingers. You've even got the 4-stand Chosen here, which I assume the Sign is going to go into, so you're not left with a naked 4-stand regiment for the reasons we talked about before with Shattering. Scion, very, very good, and the Chosen, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about why they're good, but when you're pretty much triple activating every turn and you've got Wound 7 and you've got the spells from the Scion on top, it is very effective, trust me, bro. Predator going in the Slingers, most likely there's a group of 4 of them. Ceaseless Hunt and Marksmanship is what I prefer. He's taken Sacred Censer. I don't love Sacred Censer. Well, I mean, I do love the item. I think it's very, very good, but my personal preference is to either have the Predator with Mantle of the Devoted or Predator with Kiss of the Dilosaur in a Matriarch list, which can give him his unit Fanatic, so that you have at least the option of that triple move or double move shoot to get Torrential Fire working really, really well. The Predator and the Slingers do not need Fanatic. They do very, very well without it. But if you have a way of giving them Fanatic, it just takes them to that tip-top level, which becomes very, very impressive. But I can understand building without it. You want the Chief having the Mantle of the Devoted in this list, which, you know, that's the style of this list. Personally, I prefer to have it elsewhere. The 4 Hunters is cool. Hunter's very, very good against armor. Really love that. Apex Predator, you can never go wrong with the Apex Predator. Very, very fast unit. A little bit overpowered. Overall, I don't expect this list to absolutely crush it. I think this is sort of a middle-of-the-road kind of list. It's better to have the Queen as the Warlord, personally speaking, or if you you really are going to go with the Chief Warlord. Maybe not so much stuff with ranged adding to it. The cool thing about the Chief is it gives shock, obviously, to the Chosen as well. So they're barreling in there with Inspired and shock, and it's affecting their impact. So it's very, very good. I would be running and I have in fact run, and you can even see on my YouTube channel, I've got bat reps up there, I believe, where it's the Chief plus like 2 or 3 units of veterans, 2 Chosen, and then 2 hunting packs, and even more on top of that, and you get really huge mileage out of shock. So not a terrible list by any stretch of the imagination, just slightly different than what I would have run it, but I'm sure that there's a good plan behind it that I haven't fully understood. All right, Zero Standards by Andrew Miller, 100 Kingdoms. This guy is... he is an American player who's done well at some tournaments, and we know him and we love his lists. He just runs all of the Ashen Dawn. So I sort of talk down about regiments of 4 stands because they're vulnerable to being shattered. Ashen Dawn are excused from that argument, and so are Bone Golems, to be honest, just because you're not going to be able to kill 3 stands of Ashen Dawn in 1 activation. It's just not really possible. So having 4 stands is actually very, very efficient because you take up a good amount of space in the battlefield, not getting too clogged up, and they're always going to maximize their attacks. So they are crushing, and then of course he's got the second warband to give you another unit of 4, so he's got 12 of them altogether. And I love this little touch here. Andrew's list previously had the mage with the Water School Warlord set up, where it would be the mage healing the Ashen Dawn, but they nerfed that. They prevented that from happening. So now what he's doing is putting the priest there, presumably with the bowman, so he could just hang out behind 1 regiment of Ashen Dawn and just cast like +1 defense on them, because that is a legit move that you can do. And then you've got defense 5 Ashen Dawn, which is hilarious. Prediction time, I think that he will do very, very well. This is an impressive list, and you kind of need to play well and to have the right tools in your list to deal with it. All of those Order of the Sealed Temple come on very fast. They score early. They wait for the enemy to bog down with the Ashen Dawn, and they outmaneuver you. If this guy ends up in the top 3, I'll not be surprised. If he wins it, I wouldn't be absolutely shocked. I don't think it's the absolute best list in the lineup, but it's definitely one of the stronger ones. So let's move on. Over here we have, who is it? Old Dominion, another Old Dominion player, or our first Old Dominion player we're looking at, Arcadius. So this is not a Strategos Warlord. Everybody agrees that the Strategos is the best, but he's running the Exiliarch, which is a strong choice, but not the Strategos. I do respect the Exiliarch for being able to get up to Dark Power Tier 4. Old Dominion have such an easy time achieving that these days. There's no reason not to play a character that can get you there. Let's have a look. So we've got the 4 regiments of Varangians, and he's got the Primigenia, so that's going to be able to give... sorry, no, he doesn't have 3 units of Varangians. He's got 1 unit of Praetorians, Profane Reliquary. So what he's doing here is he's going to have the unit of Praetorians joined by the Exiliarch to have Aura of Death 4 plus the 2 Varangians on top of that. Note that he's not using Princeps. Doesn't really need it because in the Supremacy turn, you're marching, charging, and clashing, or charging and clashing twice, and you're going to get inspired from that. And generally, you're going to reach tier 3 with Memories of Old pretty quickly. A lot of Legionnaires, you always want to take them. And then over here, we've got the Caryatids in the Hierodeacon with the 4 Caryatids. I really like that because the Varangians are just so tough. They are a good shield for them. And of course, the Praetorians obviously going to get in front. Then over here, we have the Archimandrite as well. I can't believe you can afford all this, but Old Dominion makes it possible. 4 Bone Golems, 3 Legionnaires. It's just very, very strong. Old Dominion are overpowered. They are the strongest faction in the game. At a very, very high level, you can beat them with certain builds, so it's just not guaranteed that they'll win every tournament or even more than 50% of the tournaments, but that's besides the point. They have stuff which is just too strong, and this list is a good example of that. I don't expect this list to come first, but I won't be surprised if it's in the top half. It is a very crushing list. It's very difficult to beat, but the thing is, you're an event with like 15 other players who are very skilled, really know what they're doing, and many of them will find a way to outplay you if you don't play this list perfectly. So I just generally won't be surprised if this list doesn't make it in the top 3, but it's scary. If I ran up into this, I would be absolutely terrified, and I would have to play my best to beat it. All right, we have Stephen Murasan. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Mr. Bones Wild Ride. This is another Old Dominion list. Let's have a look. So, do we have a Strategos Warlord? Yes, we do. Okay, so this is a bit more straightforward. Strategos in the Praetorian Guards with the exact kit that everybody takes. Aura of Death 4, reroll 6s, Tenacious, and 6 Praetorian Guards. So a bit bigger than normal. I prefer 5, but he's gone for 6. I respect that. Hierodeacon with just Legionnaires. I guess that's for the Dark Shepherd. And then you've got the 2 units of 5 Bone Golems and 5 carries with the Archimandrite. Oh, baby. Okay. So I will just let you guys know in advance, I have already looked at the other lists, and I do think that this list is the best list. If I was playing in this tournament, this is the list that I would want to play. Maybe one of the Wadroon lists, possibly, but this list, I feel on paper is the strongest. I don't know if it is the best, like, key to winning in an event like this where everybody's really, really good, because it may turn out that a bunch of people know exactly what to do against this list to shut it down. But this list exactly, like, keys in and net decks the exact things which are strongest in the current Conquest Last Argument meta right now. The Strategos and the Praetorians with Aura of Death 4, plenty of Bone Golems, the carries, which are absolutely off the chain. He's got 5 of them. And you can even afford a bunch of creatids to go on behind them. Sorry, no, that's the other list. He does not have creatids. He's just got the combo of Dark Shepherd and Archimandrite. This guy's going to get to tier 3 really quickly, and he's going to win a lot of games. If this person is not in the top half, I'll be shocked. But hey, I mean, I don't know the skill level of this player, and that's more important than the list. But I do really fear this kind of setup. All right, so we've got Reese from Australia. This guy posts on the forums all the time. He's a PB employee, so I take it, and he's always spoiling stuff and leaking things for us in the nicest possible way. Let's have a look at what he's running. So Polymarch Warlord, I love it, always love that thing. Army Alliance, he's got the Atalanta Spear and Aristia with the 5 Agema. Love that setup, it's so dangerous. The threat range from that is so huge, and the Andromarchos with the bonus from that is very, very helpful. Talos, one of the best things in City-States at the moment. I'm expecting that to receive a small nerf in the update. Aristarch, we have Blades of Achilles. That's, people call it the lightsaber. It's clear 4. In 8 hoplites. That is unexpected. So hoplites aren't really seen as an absolute super premium regiment in the meta. I assume that Reese has a bit of a plan in mind. He's sort of played some practice games, made himself comfortable with that kind of setup. They are pretty solid for just like tanking an objective, and you've got the cleave 4 character in it to start chewing on stuff. You don't need the hoplite to do the damage. They just that sit there soaking up hits. I feel that they are just slightly expensive for what they bring to the battlefield, but I might just have my blinkers on. I might be thinking of early city-states where people could only run hoplites and minotaurs, and that's the only thing they took. So I could be wrong. Then we've got a couple of chariots over here. Always want to take those. They're probably the best thing in city-states. They do need a nerf. The amazing thing about chariots is that they take up 1 restricted slot, but you can have up to 3 of them, and they just score super efficiently. They do damage super efficiently, and they increase your activation, your card stack, which is so important. Mechanists with the Thoracites, they are lights, but of course the Mechanists can make them scoring with torque. And then the Inquisitors, a group of 4 of them, I don't really understand that. Inquisitors are quite flimsy. He's taken 4 of them. I don't know if the Mechanists can join them. I might be missing something there, but 4 Inquisitors, I just don't get it, because if 3 of them die, you lose the whole unit, and they are only defense evasion 2, so you could be in a situation where your opponent gets a lot of attacks on them. Let's say they get charged by a brick of knights or something, like Household Knights, 4 or 5 of them with a Noble Lord. You could easily lose 3 stands in that situation and just get wiped out. So yeah, I don't really understand the Inquisitors so much, but in his list, I definitely appreciate the Polymarch Agema Talos combo and the chariots being in there. So I'm just keen to see how he does, and what the strat is with the massive hoplites and the Inquisitors. That's the only sort of eyebrow-raising thing in the list. In terms of predictions, I would be surprised if this made it to top 3, but also, like, if I was running this list, I'd have high hopes for mid-pack. I definitely don't think that it's as bad as the Raptor Riders only list. I mean, I love this Raptor Riders list. It's just competitively, it's just so much weaker. All right, moving on. So we have Comp 6 Double Ds from Raymond Tan. Scion Warlord. Wow. I don't really get that. So the Scion Warlord doesn't really have a particularly good supremacy ability relative to what you get out of the Queen or the Chieftain, right? So the Queen is really, I think, is the best pick for supremacy. But hey, these guys are going to the World's Tournament. I'm not. And that's what the people are running. So the Scion allows you, I think, to just have a look at command cards and pick the right ones, etc. There's a bit more to it than that. But I just remember reading it and not really feeling it. So I love to see how this guy does with it. 8 Braves. So that's your massive stack. These guys are quite tough, but again, they don't have the healing that the Queen grants. And you end up having bloodlust affecting them, obviously. So if something goes tragically wrong with them, a group of 8 is quite a commitment. Over here, Predator plus Slingers, of course. He's got War, as you should. Animalistic Focus is also very, very good. Raptor Riders, he's got 2 groups of 3. That's a lot of lights to add to the Slingers. I'm worried about that. Even though Slingers are very good, a whole warband full of lights, that kind of bothers me. So Matriarch Queen with 8 Braves, massive, plus a Tontor. So what you've got here is there are specifically 1, 2, 3 regiments that can score. Everything else is light. Okay, I'm going to put my neck out here and just sort of make myself a little bit vulnerable by saying that I don't think this list is likely to do well unless this guy has a 4D chess super brain strat that I am not thinking of. Conquest is a game where you typically trade regiments with your opponent throughout the game, and you often find yourself in a situation where you kind of need to keep up with scoring late game, or if you've been losing early game and then you crush them on material, you need to have enough units to score later on to overcome them. With 3 scoring units, I don't feel like that's enough, because in a scenario where there are a lot of zones, you can find yourself in a position where you lose just 1 regiment. Like if your Tontor goes down, and you just have 2 big blocks of Braves, and you need to score like 3 objectives out of 5 or something, and you're having to babysit your objectives with just your characters, doesn't really work. So my feeling is that this list doesn't make enough sense to make top 3. But if I'm missing something, I hope this guy has it figured out, because I don't really see it. All right, Peter with his Jarl. So I played against this in TTS when Carl was running it for our TTS tournament. You've got the Blooded and a bunch of Trolls and Bow Chosen. He's running 2 units of 3 Bow Chosen and another Blooded with Stalkers, more Trolls, more Bow Chosen, and the Jarl Raiders and the Jarl. Now, the only reason why this works is because the Jarl Supremacy ability allows the Jarl and the Raiders to score, and all of the Blooded and the Bow Chosen to score, and the Trolls score as well. So you're in the situation where you just swarm the battlefield turn 1, and then turn 2, you're scoring straight away, your opponent's still showing up, they're still showing up. In turn 4, they're arriving into gun rage, and you're shooting them. Turn 5, they're trading with things, cutting their way through the Trolls, and then by turn 7, you know, they may be slowly overcoming you in terms of material, but you've just got so many points on the board that you can't win anymore. Another outcome that can happen is that you get embroiled in combat and they find ways to flank you with the Trolls and shoot you in the sides with the Bow Chosen, and Opportunist is constantly working. You're getting the bonus attack. The Trolls are regenerating. They're getting +1 attack for being damaged. It's a very, very nasty list, and this is the kind of list which works really well for players who really know what they're doing. If this list made it into like the top 3, I would not be surprised at all. I wouldn't be picking it to come first, because I think that those Old Dominion lists with the Varangians and the Keres and the Archimandrites and stuff are just going to be too much trouble for this kind of setup. Even though you've got a lot of Bow Chosen, and that does very well against Bone Golems and so forth, once the carriers start shooting at you, they're just removing regiments one by one. And the Strategos has a lot of threat with his Supremacy ability to spin you around and so forth. The Varangians, if they get too close, they've got the Supremacy turn to March, Charge, Clash. That's a tough one, and the Wadroon lists have a lot of shooting. So that could also be awkward for the bow chosen, who can get out threat ranged by the slingers. But I'm talking worst case scenario for the Nords list here. I think this list is incredibly strong, and if my life depended on it, I would have to write a Nords list similar to this, because there's not really a much better way to play Nords at the moment. Sadly, I hope they fix that. All right, it's Powell from Poland, I presume, and we are seeing the Matriarch Queen. We love to see that. Okay, Dreamcatcher, which means that it's going in the Hunters. That's really cool. So the Queen can put Fanatic onto the Hunters, giving them Fanatic for 3 activations, March, Shoot, March, Aim, Shoot, something like that. And with a group of 4, that's a ton of damage there. So very, very powerful. I still prefer the Queen and the Braves, because she's just got the ability to heal and to Fanatic and to clash. But the Hunters are very, very strong. Then we've got the Predator and the Apex Predator in there with the monster. So she's not actually riding that by the looks. No, she's not. Sign of Conquest over here. We have the Double Chosen, of course. You love to see it. Really good idea. Focused as well, really going all in on the spells. Predator, Barrage 5 with the Slingers by the looks. And Marksmanship, Animalistic Focus, Marksmanship. Yeah, I love that. So Mantle of Devoted on the Predator. Love to see it. Slingers got 4 of them, so that's the absolute artillery piece right there. Unit of 3 Braves, I just go for a really cheap scoring. The Bloodlust affects them quite a lot, so your opponent can set up traps for that. But all in all, you've got what? 1, 2... 3 lights. So I definitely prefer this over the guy who has 2 big blocks of Braves and just lots of light units. And I definitely, obviously, prefer it over the Raptor Riders. But yeah, I can't really take too much away from this list. I mean, again, I personally prefer the cookie cutter Matriarch Queen in the Braves, and then the Predators Warband has the Hunting Pack and the Slingers, and that's it for the lights. And then obviously the Sign of Conquest with the Chosen, I'd be running that setup as well. 1 Apex Predator is okay. Looks like he's gone for 2. That's also perfectly acceptable. So this list is strong. There's no other way to put it. It is really strong. And I've got to tell you, the Hunters there, that is a way of defeating the guy who's running like 12 stands of Ashen Dawn, because the Hunters, when they're shooting them, they won't get blessed. The Flint Napper, I believe, the Hunters basic regiment, Flint Napper gets around hardened, is what I'm trying to get my tongue around. And the Deadly Shot Armor Piercing is really, really good. So the Hunters are really able to get an optimal range there, blast them. You could even, well, I guess you can't use Fire in Advance because the Queen doesn't have it, but Wind's Children as well, I believe that gives them Torrential Fire, so if you get really close to the Ashen Dawn, you can actually murder the stands quite well. Cool, I definitely love this list. I think this one will do very well. Spartans Prepare for Glory. This is by Matthias. Okay, so Aristarch, Warlord, Blades of Kitties, 6 Hoplites, that's fine, with the cow in there as well. 3 Selenoi, I like that. Telos, staple. 3 Chariots, perfect. That's really what you want to be doing competitively with City-States right now. Then you've got the Polymarch, Agema, 4 of them, Andromachos, that's excellent. Atlantis Spear is very good for them. 3 Haspis. I don't love the Haspis. I just feel like Resolve 3, you pay quite a lot for them. They can be a bit weak, but good for scoring with Vanguard. And then the second Talos there. I think that this is one of the better ways to play City-States. I understand his list more than Reese's list. Like, maybe Reese's list is better because maybe I just don't get City-States, but I can wrap my head around the strategy that Mateos is using more so. I can understand what you're supposed to do with this list. You know, you have the Talos getting into objective zones, and you're tar-pitting them, and you're shooting them with the Chariots and the Selenoi, and you're finding opportunities to flank them with the Agema. And that's basically it. That's how you play it, and I think that's a very effective way of doing City-States. So I think that if he plays well, he'll do well. Again, you're going to struggle against that Old Dominion list, but who isn't? All right, Killian from France with more Ashen Dawn, but the thing is, he's only taking 2 units of 3. Running the Standard Bearer, I think it's too expensive to take that Standard Bearer road, just my personal opinion. But second Warband actually has an Imperial Officer instead of more Ashen Dawn, which is great to see. So 2 Crossbowmen, Cadre and Steel Legion, and then your Chapter Mage with more Men-at-Arms over here, okay. So he does have scoring. So we've got the Men-at-Arms and the Steel Legion, plus the 4 units of Cav, giving us 4 scoring units, which is is enough. I play 100 Kingdoms as my main faction. I look at a list like this and I go, yep, thumbs up. This has everything it needs to win. It's going to come down to his ability as a player on the battlefield. I can't really take much away from this. But again, it doesn't feel quite as oppressive as the Old Dominion and Wadroon lists kind of do. But the thing is, they only have to slip up in the smallest way, or the luck only has to swing in Killian's way a little bit for him to do really well. I would be most interested to see what happens if he runs into Andrew and we have a 100 Kingdoms mirror match and they both have to fight each other. Who comes out better there? Is it the guy with more Ashen Dawn, or is it the guy with a lot of shooting and a lot of units to get on the field earlier and win the fight that way? I honestly don't know. I don't know which group of units I would prefer to have to playtest it. I honestly don't know, so we'll be kind of keen to see what the outcome of that is. All right, Carl, who is from the States, who plays Spies. I've played him once on TTS, and he is running an Ode to the Silverfish Gnome. Spies, so Biomancer, and this is Directorate, by the way. So what do we got here? Biomancer, Degenerative Aura, that's the Lethal Demise thing. Master of Flesh, more healing. 6 Force-Grown Drones, nothing wrong with that. The Biomancer can make them scoring, and it's just a solid sort of setup all round. High clone, so we have these, he's probably going to be going with the Vanguard clones by the looks, so, wait, Biotic Hive, Marksman variant, no, okay, so he's going with the Marksman clones, excuse me. The Vanguard clones there are a good scoring unit, plus they do hit quite a bit with the attack 6, not bad, and of course you can use Burnout on them. Then we have the Prideborn, so the new character. She's pretty cool with the 2 units of Leonines. I like that. Armor Piercing 2, Deadly Shot, great against stuff like Ashen Dawn, Bone Golems, really, really helpful. And then the 3 Centaur Avatara, they're great with the Directorate burnout ability. Then we come to the Ferromancer with Avatar Protection. So Ferromancer with Brute Drones is not bad at all because of the -1 defense. That really works out well. And Strix, you play them well. Carl knows what he's doing with them. He'll be able to make them work. So this list says to me, this is a list that you play if you really know what you're doing. If you understand Spies really, really well, and you have like a solid battle plan, this is great. I would not recommend like a new player to Spies copy this list and try and win with it, because it's got a lot of tricks in it that you sort of need to understand. The units are very, very squishy. You need to have things in the right place. I don't think this is a list where you can just sort of aimlessly throw stuff into your opponent and hope for the best. It will get crushed by some of those like city-states and Old Dominion lists that we've been having a look at. But I do expect Carl to do very, very well, because if you time things right with these units, you use Burnout exactly the right time, you use the Biomancer's abilities, the Biomancies at the right time for scoring and for Catalytic Rupture and all the other different things, healing, you can do amazingly well with them. All right, next list is from Ewan. This is a guy who apparently managed to narrowly defeat Rob Shepherd at the qualifier in Australia for this tournament, and he did very, very well with this. Maharaja Court of Air with the Disciples, love that. Sorcerer Court of Fire, you want that for obviously a couple of different spells there. Does he have goals? Let me see. No goals? Okay. You don't necessarily need it. Lots of Flamecasters, yep, and plenty of guns there. Maharaja Court of Fire, Arcane Conduit. No Jadu Kavat. Oh, here it is. Here, found it. Jadu Kavat Court of Fire. Yep, perfect. So this strikes me as the standard way of doing Sorcerer Kings at the moment. I definitely prefer this list over the other Sorcerer Kings list that we saw. So you've got the front line, which is all the Rajakur and Sword Dancers, and then you've got the back line, which is all of the Flamecasters. No need to take any monsters here by the looks. I don't think that's really necessary. This list is all about just gunning them down and charging up the rituals to get even more conflagrations up so you can keep hitting them with spells. And boy, do these casters have a lot of spells. When Sorcerer Kings were invented and released, Parabellum was saying, oh, you know what, they have a lot of spells and very few, if any of them, do damage, because we want to make it all about the sort of supplementary stuff. But of course, the players, when they get their hands on the rules, the players gravitate to the characters that just do spells and they only cast those spells. So you get like your your Thunder Strike, whatever it is, spell from the Maharaja, and you get the Burn to Cinders spell, and you just cast those again with Conflagration, and that's the way that this list usually wins, is that they come too close, they get burned, and then you use your activation advantage with rituals to outmaneuver them and just outscore them in the late game. Yeah, so I think this will do very well. That list that has 5 carries and like 2 units of 5 bone golems will be difficult to chew through, but who knows? Very, very keen to see how well he does. I think that if Ewan does place top 3 or even wins the tournament, wouldn't be surprised, because he obviously knows what he's doing, and this list is very well tuned for that. Okay, Scoutmaster Telos by Dustin, and this has a Aristarch with Atlantis Spear, Expert Scouts. Okay, for Agema, Selenoi checks out. The 3 Chariots, as you expect, more Selenoi, so he's got 2 units of Selenoi, very cool. Polymarch with Thorakites and the Tharian, but the Polymarch's going in the Agema with Andromagos. Everybody takes that. And then the Telos at the back here. So how many Telos do we take total? Just the 1 by the looks. I think that's fine. This is a very well-rounded list. I think that 2 Selenoi is a bit too much. I prefer taking a bit more scoring, but it has a very strong shooting game, right? So will it get outshot by all of the slingers that are out there? Probably. I would be surprised if this list comes first place. But again, it does come down to a little bit of skill here. I think that it's got the tools, and definitely with 3 Chariots, anything can happen. And lastly, we have the 1 Dwegum list from Daniel here. All right, Hellbringer Sorcerer with Magma, and another Sorcerer here with Magma Hellbringer, and then the Steel Shaper Warlord. So this is the one which heals stuff, so he doesn't actually have the double spell Sorcerer. I don't really agree with that with Magma. I really prefer to be having 1 Sorcerer put down the template, then ping them with Pyroclast or whatever it's called, and then the separate Sorcerer goes. I think that's the optimal way of doing it. But everything else in this list is just like 3 units of Fireforge, pure gunline, just the Steelforge going in front to Castle. Yeah, I think this is directly neck deck from a certain YouTuber who plays a lot of these. Maybe it's him. I can't remember. But this is a way of playing Dwegum that a lot of people are doing now. I don't think this list will come first at the tournament. I think there are too many ways to outplay it scenario-wise, but I don't think it will come last. If you're running this Dwegum list against this Raptorites list, I think that they can stave off the Raptorites without too much trouble. I think they can stave them off. Against maybe some of the slow-moving city-states lists, you've got enough there to gun them down. There is a fair bit of Hardened on there, but the Fireforged are going to do well into, obviously, Chariots, obviously, Agema, stuff like that. And with the Sorcerer plinging them quite a bit, that's going to be very effective. And you build up a lot of tokens and a lot of healing through this list that the Steelforge can use very, very well. Oof, that was fun. Really enjoyed bringing this little list guesseroonie to you guys. Let's see how they go at the tournament. Looking forward to the game balance patch updates after that. And maybe I'll bring another video to you guys just working out where my predictions ended up landed. Anything could happen. Honestly, it's very hard for me to predict this kind of thing, but had a little bit of fun running through the lists, and let me know what you guys think.